Well, hello everybody. This is Linda from North Central Texas. Today we're going to be working with a acorn squash. First of all, you want to make sure you wash it real good, which I've already done. I'm preheating my oven to 400 degrees. And I'm going to see if I can cut this. I know usually they're pretty hard to cut. And I don't want to cut it all lopsided. If you got a strong arm, other than mine, I suggest you get it because it's kind of hard to cut through. Especially when you want to get it even. Oh, come on. I didn't say it was easy. Getting that little stem off the very end of it helps because you can't cut through that little sucker. Now I'm just going to take my seeds out. And you might want to scrape it a little bit more after we cook it. But I'm going to get the seeds out now because I'm going to dry the seeds and I'm going to use them to plant. See if I can plant some of them. I forgot my olive oil. I'm just going to pour a little bit of olive oil. Now I'm not putting them in the regular oven, so you may not even have to do this. I mean, I'm not putting them in there to begin with. But I'm going to rub it down with a little bit of olive oil anyway. And guess what? To speed up the cooking time, I'm going to put them in my microwave for about maybe 5 minutes and check on them and see if that's enough, and if not, then I'll get back with them. Put those to the side. Now, what I'm going to use is just regular old stovetop stuffing mix. Let's see. 2 cups of water. Knocking everything over. And I'm going to put in about a 1/4 of a stick, a little more of butter, which was all I had on that. I got plenty more in the refrigerator. But what I'm also going to do is find my chopper. Well, I may just chop it in something else. I've got some raisins here. Not raisins, but dried cherries. Now you can use sorry about that, I'll tell you. You can use raisins, you can use cranberries. These are dried cherries. I'm only putting about a 1/4 of a cup in there. And I'm going to take my little food chopper and I'm just going to gently chop them up a little bit. They're a little hard because they are dried cherries. And they stick to the chopper. But that's okay because they'll come off. And you don't have to chop them up much, just a little. And then we'll put them right down in my water and my butter. I'm going to put in about a teaspoon of garlic. You can use crushed garlic, garlic powder, garlic salt, whatever. Put in some pepper. Salt. And this is one of my Jolly Green, not Jolly Green, it's one of the Egyptian walking onions. And you can see it looks like a great big giant green onion if you pull it. Now this recipe called for 1 green onion chopped, so I'm using one of my walking onions. I do have to cut the roots off of it. I have washed it because it had quite a bit more dirt on the end of it when I first brought it in. Just cut the end off like that. Put the rest of that in your compost. And I gotta wash my knife off because I got still cherries on there. Now I'm gonna chop the whole thing, green and all. Now when you get up to your white part of the onion, slice it really thin. You don't want great big chunks. So slice it as thin as you can. And if you can't slice it real thin, just cut it down the center and then slice it. And that'll give you smaller pieces. And yeah, I've got a Band-Aid on my finger, but I can't help it. I busted my finger outside working in the yard yesterday. And at first I didn't have a Band-Aid on it, but I kept splitting it open every time it would try to heal. So I finally put a Band-Aid on it. Oh, and I forgot to turn my burner on. Gotta have this burner on or it's not going to get hot. Now I'm going to check my, get me a fork. And we're going to poke our acorn squash and see the doneness of it. I'm going to put it in there for another 5 minutes. And this is in the microwave on high for 5 minutes. It didn't get it the first time, so it's going to cook another 5 minutes, so that's 10 minutes so far. And I've got to get a pan, because we are going to put them in the other oven when we get them out of the microwave when they're done. And I'm just taking a cookie sheet and I'm lining it with foil. And I'm going to dab just a little bit of olive oil in each end, and that's just so the acorn squash doesn't stick. Get that butter melted down in there. Cut open my bag of stuffing mix. And as usual, we got to bring this liquid to a boil. And I'm probably going to have way too much stuffing, but that's okay. Because normally if you're cooking for a larger family, you'd probably be cooking at least 2 acorn squashes, which would give you 4 sections. So you'd probably need the whole package of stuffing. With me, I'm just going to stuff what I can. I'll save the rest in a container to eat for another meal. Because I'm not going to cook 2 whole acorn squashes just for myself. 1 is way too much, but don't forget, wash your acorn squash really good first, because even though when it comes from the store, you still have dirt on the outside of it. I washed it real good and I dried it off. This is a lot better than putting it in the oven and trying to cook it for an hour. So, well, it's going to take about 15 minutes in the microwave. I have to put it on there for another 5 minutes. And then I think that'll be enough, because by the time we get I'm sorry about my coughing, y'all. But by the time we get it out, scrape it a little bit more to get those little strings out of it where the seeds were. It'll be cooked plenty. In fact, I may not even leave it in there another 5 minutes. I'm going to leave it in there another 3 minutes maybe. And that should be enough. Because it's okay if it's not completely cooked, because you're going to put it in this pan, you're going to stuff it. We're going to put it in the oven and cook it for about probably 15 minutes. Go ahead and pour my stuffing mix in there. Turn the burner down. I'll put my onions in. That's my green onion. And I got onions going everywhere. Mix that in. And if you want, you can dump this out in a bowl if you feel more comfortable mixing it. But you want the cherries or the raisins, cranberries or whatever you put in there to be well mixed. And then we're just simply going to let this mixture cool off while we finish with our acorn squash. And I think it's been in there long enough. smells good. Let me get something to get it out of the oven with. I mean, out of the microwave, which is an oven, microwave oven. See, we want them to stay intact, but we want them to be soft. A little soft. And you ever notice how your microwave gets all humid and wet inside depending on what you cook? Well, the best thing in the world for that is just leave the door open a little bit. Let the air get in there and it will dry it out. And it'll be just as good as new. Now, coming back to my squash. First of all, I got my scrap bowl over here. I'm just going to scrape that a little bit, not much, but it scrapes a lot easier now than it did before to get those few strings out. It's pretty hard to do until it's cooked. So you get a good spoonful of it out. Scrape the other one out. Let me get over here on the other side and see what I'm doing. Guess you can see here what I'm doing. I'm just scraping the inside of it out. Just a little. I don't want all the flesh of my squash out, but I want the part that the seeds hook to out. Like I said, it comes out fairly easy. Once it's cooked like that. It's about a spoonful. Now I'm gonna put just a little bit of salt and pepper down inside my squash. I'm going to see if I can get them out in this pan without destroying my squash. You don't want to touch them with your hands because those things are hot. The bowl's hot too. But now, after you're, I think you can still see me. After your squash is in the pan cooling off a little, I'm going to mix in Parmesan cheese, probably about a 1/4 cup full. I'm going to mix in a 1/4 cup to a cup of mozzarella cheese. And this is what I meant by if you need to get a bigger bowl to mix it. And I'm probably going to need a bigger bowl, because I don't want to make a mess all over the stove trying to mix it up. Now what I'm going to do is just dump it right in there. And I'm going to mix it up. I really didn't want my cheese melted right at this point, but hey, you know, you can't help it when you don't want to wait on the camera. When you don't want it to wait on it to cool, put it that way. Now, what I'm going to do is stuff, ooh, that mozzarella cheese. Yeah, if I'd have let it cool a little bit more, it wouldn't have been that way, because it would not have melted. Right now it's melted and it wants to get stringy. But if you wait and cool your stuffing off a bit before you add your cheese, it won't get melted like that and end up all stringy. And I'm just going to pile it up there because I like the stuffing as well as the squash. And like I said, if I'd have had 4 to make one box of stuffing, we'll make 4 of them of this size squash. But the way it is, you know, I'm only making 2, so I'm basically using half of the stuffing mix that I normally would have used. So I can save half of it from something else. I can stuff something else with it. But I'm just kind of stuffing it down in there. Now, I'm going to put this in a 400-degree oh, I've got stuff everywhere. Put some mozzarella on top. And at this point, basically all you got to do really is melt your cheese on top and brown it, rather than leave it in the oven for a whole hour that you would have done if you had not put it in the microwave. And you need to keep watching it because you don't want it to burn. If your acorn squash was not done enough in the microwave, which mine was plenty done enough, then mix your stuffing, mix your cheese in, stuff your squash, put it in the oven, cook it for another 15 minutes, take it out, then put your mozzarella cheese on top, put it back in another 5 or 10 minutes until that cheese melts and starts to brown. Because you want it to be kind of a golden brown on top with your cheese melted before you ever take it out. And since I've got to stay on top of it as much as possible, I'm going to not stop the camera. Go ahead and clean up my stuff, because I don't want to cut the camera off and then just have to turn it straight back on. It's always nice to clean up as you go, or it is for me. I've done it my whole life. I just don't like to have a big pile mess when I'm cooking or anything else that I'm doing. I was looking for this bowl. Because what I'm going to do is put this little bit of stuffing mix that I had left, and that would have done 4 halves, because I didn't have to pile them so high like I did the 2 in the oven. That makes a good stuffing for that squash. And then that's going to go in the refrigerator till I need it. It's starting to melt down. Again, we don't want it burnt, but we do want it browned. It's probably going to take maybe 15 minutes or so to brown it. Yep, see it's starting to melt down pretty good. Oh, I didn't mean to pull the towel out of there. I don't know how long we've been on. Oh, we're doing good. Doing real good, I think. And I always forget my apron. Just putting some stuff up. Yeah, I always forget my apron. Straighten that up a little bit. I didn't realize it was so crooked. Yeah, I'm gonna wash my acorn squash seed off, and I made it worse than what it was. I will save those seeds, dry them, and I will put them up and plant them next planting season. I don't know why my camera does that. It just cut off all by itself. Just because I walked in front of it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Definitely not supposed to do that. Cook a little bit more, just a couple more minutes. And we will have stuffed acorn squash. And that is my recipe. I don't know if y'all will like it or not, but I think it's pretty good. I mean, if you wanted to add celery to that, you could. I'd rather just put the onions and the cherries, or either put raisins or something like that in there if I don't have the cranberries. But you can most certainly chop up some fresh celery real fine and put that in there. See. Leave it in there just a couple more minutes. I mean, stuff like this, sometimes you can't. I mean, we've already rushed it by cooking it in the microwave for about, what was it, 15 minutes total on high, rather than put it in the oven for almost an hour to cook the squash. So therefore, we speeded that up enough. I don't think we need to speed up the browning part anymore. Well, I think we've just about got our acorn squash cooked. I'm letting it brown just another minute, and then we're taking it out of the oven. Ooh, I'm gonna have to get my other mitten because that's a little bit hot and a little bit heavy for just one hand. But it's slightly browned. Doesn't that look good? I think those acorn squash look really good. And I hate to do it since they're so hot. But just to show you, I'm hoping it's not going to fall apart. That you can divide these up. Just cut one in half. That way you have quarters. And you don't have to serve the whole half a squash to someone. I got mozzarella cheese going everywhere. But I'm going to try to get this one up. Get it in my plate. There's your finished acorn squash. Try one. I think you'll like it. And I'm putting a fourth of it in this bowl to put it in the refrigerator. I'm going to eat this one. And I'm going to freeze that half of one. Because it's way too much for me to eat. I can freeze it and then take it out at a later time whenever I decide I want to eat some stuffed acorn squash.